Why your thoughts control everything is the hidden truth most people never stop to face. Your thoughts are not random, they are the starting point of everything you do. The way you think when you wake up decides how your morning feels. The way you think when stress shows up decides whether you give up or keep going. The way you think about yourself decides how far you'll allow yourself to grow. People spend years blaming circumstances, blaming others, even blaming luck, but they rarely look at the thoughts running in their own mind. If your thoughts keep telling you that you're not ready, you'll hold back. If your thoughts tell you that you can figure things out, you'll take action. That's how direct the connection island. This video will open your eyes to the truth that has been guiding your life all along. Change your thoughts today, and you change your future tomorrow. Chapter 1. Notice how every thought you allow shapes your mood. When you sit down alone with yourself, you begin to realize that the thoughts you accept in your mind are not harmless little things. They are powerful, and they shape the way you feel every single moment of the day. If you wake up and let your first thought be frustration, then frustration will guide your mood. If you begin with worry, then worry will direct your decisions. But if you begin by choosing a thought of calm or purpose, that one choice shifts how you feel and how you show up. The hidden truth is that nothing has more influence over your emotions than the thoughts you allow to stay in your mind. Think about it. A single negative thought can drain the energy out of your entire morning. One small worry can make you restless, short-tempered, and uneasy. On the other hand, one clear and strong thought can make you feel steady and ready to face your responsibilities. This is not about pretending life is easy. This is about understanding how your inner world drives your outer actions. If your mood feels heavy, it is often because the thoughts you've been repeating are heavy. If your mood feels light, it's because you allowed thoughts that lifted you. The connection is real, and it is happening whether you notice it or not. Human psychology proves that your mood is not random. Your feelings follow your thinking. When people say they feel hopeless, it is because they are repeating hopeless thoughts. When people feel confident, it is because they are repeating confident thoughts. Mood is simply the mirror of what's going on in your thinking. And here's the reality. You get to choose which thoughts you accept and which you reject. Most people never pause to notice. They let any thought take over, and then they wonder why their day feels out of control. The truth is, their day is not out of control. Their thinking island. Now imagine the difference if you trained yourself to notice each thought as it shows up. If a thought says, "I can't handle this," you notice it. You see it for what it island. You don't just accept it and let it shape your mood. You stop and ask, does this thought help me? If it doesn't, you have the power to replace it with something stronger. Instead of, "I can't handle this," you choose, "I will take one step at a time." That shift changes how you feel in your body. Your breathing steadies, your shoulders relax, and your mood moves from panic to control. Every time you allow a thought, your body feels it. Your chest tightens when you think about failure. Your stomach knots when you think about being judged. Your energy rises when you think about progress. That is why noticing matters, because you are not just dealing with thoughts in your head, you are dealing with how those thoughts shape your body and your mood. When you realize this, you stop underestimating the role of thinking. You stop saying, "It's just a thought." No, it's not just a thought. It is the starting point of how you feel and how you act. Let's be practical. Think about a day when you woke up feeling good for no clear reason. You were humming a tune, you greeted people warmly, you handled problems without tension. What was happening? Your thoughts were light, hopeful, maybe even grateful. Now think of a day when everything felt like a burden. You avoided people, you got irritated quickly, you had no patience. What was happening? Your thoughts were dark, worried, or resentful. In both cases, the quality of your mood was the direct result of the quality of your thoughts. That is the hidden truth most people overlook. If you want to build resilience, you must practice paying attention to what you allow into your mind. When a negative thought shows up, do not treat it as permanent. It is only a visitor. You can let it stay, or you can show it the door. If you keep it, your mood will bend toward negativity. If you replace it, your mood will bend toward strength. This is why some people handle stress better than others. It's not luck. It's not because they were born with a special gene. It is because they have trained themselves to notice their thoughts before those thoughts turn into emotions that dominate their day. The discipline is simple but not easy. Notice the thought, question it, and choose what to do with it. If the thought gives you energy, keep it. If the thought drains you, replace it. This takes practice, but every time you succeed, your mood improves. And as your mood improves, your actions improve. Think about how you treat people when your mood is low. You're impatient, distracted, and distant. Now think about how you treat people when your mood is balanced. You're kinder, more focused, more generous. Which version of you gets better results in life? The answer is obvious, and it all begins with the thoughts you allow. Here's another truth. The human brain loves repetition. Whatever you think about most often becomes easier to think about again. That's why people who always worry find new reasons to worry. That's why people who build confidence keep finding new ways to grow. Your mood is not just shaped by single thoughts, but by the repeated pattern of thinking you allow every day. If you want to change your mood, you must break the old patterns and build new ones. It won't happen overnight, but every time you replace a weak thought with a strong one, you're rewiring your mind. Your future depends on whether you take this seriously. People spend years trying to change their circumstances, but ignore their thinking. They want a better job, better health, better relationships, but they never pay attention to the thoughts that drive their mood and their actions. They don't see that their thoughts are the root cause of their repeated results. You can put someone in a new job, but if they still carry old thoughts of doubt, their mood will follow, and they will perform poorly. You can give someone a fresh start, but if they still accept negative thinking, they will sabotage themselves. Change your thoughts, and you change your mood. Change your mood, and you change your actions. Change your actions, and you change your life. Think about your own life. How many days have been wasted because of thoughts you could have noticed earlier? How many opportunities slipped by because your mood was shaped by doubt instead of confidence? How many conversations turned tense because you allowed a thought of anger to stay too long? If you want a better tomorrow, start by noticing the thoughts you accept today. This requires honesty. You must admit that you sometimes allow thoughts that are not helping you. Everyone does. But the difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is simple. Those who grow stop ignoring the power of thought. They learn to notice it, to guide it, and to build on it. They treat their mind like a garden, careful about what grows inside it, and over time their mood becomes stronger, more stable, and more resilient. The process is straightforward. Start by writing down the thoughts you notice most often. Look at them honestly. Are they thoughts of fear, or are they thoughts of strength? Do they make you tense, or do they make you steady? Once you see the patterns, begin practicing replacement. If you write, "I'm not good enough," replace it with, "I am improving every day." If you write, "Life is unfair," replace it with, "I am responsible for what I do next." You don't have to believe the replacement instantly, but you must begin practicing it. Over time, your mood will follow your new thoughts, and your life will follow your new mood. Remember, your mood is not out of your control. It is being shaped every hour by the thoughts you allow. This is why noticing is not optional if you want growth. The hidden truth is that your thoughts are steering everything: your energy, your attitude, your decisions, your relationships, your future. If you ignore this, you live as a victim of random moods. If you master this, you live as the author of your life. The choice is yours. You can keep letting every thought dictate how you feel, or you can begin noticing, guiding, and shaping your thoughts on purpose. One path leads to moods that weaken you, the other leads to moods that strengthen you. And when your mood is strong, your actions are strong, and your results are strong. That is why every thought you allow matters. That is why noticing them is the first step toward real change. So from this moment on, pay attention. Notice the thoughts as they show up. Decide which ones deserve space in your mind. Refuse to let destructive thoughts control your mood. Replace them with thoughts that bring stability, clarity, and confidence. Do this again and again until it becomes natural. Your mood will rise, your energy will increase, and your life will reflect the power of your new thinking. That is the hidden truth: your thoughts control everything, starting with the way you feel right now. Chapter 2. Decide to stop feeding thoughts that drain your energy. Every person alive knows what it feels like to have their energy drained. You wake up with a plan, but somewhere between morning and evening you feel worn down, not because you worked too hard, but because you carried thoughts that pulled at your strength. Thoughts that tell you you're behind, thoughts that replay mistakes, thoughts that whisper you're not enough. These thoughts don't just pass through. They take, they consume, and they leave you with less energy for the things that matter. If you want to live with focus and power, you must decide to stop feeding those thoughts. It begins with awareness. You cannot fight what you don't see. Many people walk around tired without realizing that their exhaustion is not from lack of sleep, but from the constant drain of negative thinking. When your mind is repeating what's wrong with your life, it is stealing the energy you could use to solve those very problems. When you feed those thoughts, you strengthen them, and the stronger they become, the weaker you feel. That is why the first decision must be clear: no more feeding thoughts that pull you down. Notice how draining thoughts work. They rarely shout, they whisper. You may hear them in quiet moments. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if nothing changes? At first, they seem small, but each time you give them attention, they grow. Each time you replay them, they dig deeper into your mood. By the end of the day, you feel heavy, unmotivated, and restless. That is the price of feeding them, and the cost is too high if you want a better life. So how do you stop feeding them? You decide that not every thought deserves your attention. Thoughts are like visitors. Some come to help, others come to harm. You cannot stop them from knocking, but you can decide who enters. Feeding a thought means you sit with it, you repeat it, you give it power. Starving a thought means you let it go. You move your focus, you give it no space to grow. This decision changes everything because it puts you back in control of your energy. Think about what happens when you choose not to feed a draining thought. Imagine it appears in your mind: you'll never be successful. Before, you might have entertained it, argued with it, or let it replay until you felt defeated. But now you pause and say, this thought is not useful. You refuse to dwell on it. You replace it with something simple but true: I am working on my goals today. In that moment, you starve the draining thought. You take back the energy it was trying to steal. That energy becomes fuel for action, not worry. The reason most people feel stuck is not because they lack ability, but because they feed the wrong thoughts daily. Each draining thought they feed becomes stronger, and soon it becomes a pattern. Over time, it becomes their mindset, and their mindset dictates their life. But here's the good news: just as you built the pattern by feeding the wrong thoughts, you can break the pattern by feeding the right ones. The choice is always yours. This requires discipline, and discipline is built one decision at a time. The first time you refuse to feed a draining thought, you feel a spark of freedom. The second time, you feel stronger. The third time, it becomes easier. Eventually, it becomes your habit. You catch draining thoughts quickly, and you redirect your focus before they can rob you. That is when your energy rises, because you are no longer giving it away to thoughts that do nothing for you. Energy is precious. With it, you can build, create, love, and grow. Without it, you feel stuck, even if nothing in your life has changed. That is why protecting your energy is one of the smartest decisions you can make. You protect it not by avoiding work, but by avoiding thoughts that consume your strength without giving anything back. Every day, ask yourself, which thoughts today deserve my energy? Which ones don't? Be honest with yourself. Not every thought is worthy of your time. When you stop feeding draining thoughts, something powerful happens. Your mind becomes clearer. Worry no longer clouds your judgment. Regret no longer steals your focus. You begin to think with precision. You begin to act with purpose. And this clarity spreads into every area of life. You make better decisions. You speak with more confidence. You handle challenges with more calm, all because you decided to starve the thoughts that used to weaken you. Think about the people you admire. They are not free from negative thoughts. No one island, but they have learned not to feed them. They don't spend hours replaying failure. They don't waste energy imagining rejection. They redirect quickly. They replace draining thoughts with thoughts that build them. That is why they seem strong. That is why they keep moving forward. The difference is not talent, it is discipline in what they feed their mind. Ask yourself, how many hours have you lost to thoughts that drained you? How many days felt wasted because you fed worry, anger, or doubt? How much energy could you have saved if you decided earlier not to entertain them? This is not about regret, it is about learning. From this moment forward, you can make a different choice. You can feed the thoughts that give you courage and starve the ones that drain you. The process is simple but requires practice. Step 1. Notice the thought. Step 2. Ask, does this thought give me strength or take it away? Step 3. If it drains you, refuse to dwell on it. Replace it with something constructive. You might think this sounds small, but small decisions repeated daily transform lives. Over time, you become a person who protects their energy, who uses their mind to build instead of destroy. Energy is the foundation of your growth. With energy, you can work hard, learn fast, and push through obstacles. Without it, you fall into patterns of procrastination and avoidance. And nothing drains energy faster than feeding thoughts that tear you down. That is why this decision matters so much. It is not just about feeling better. It is about reclaiming the strength to build the life you want. Consider this. When you feed draining thoughts, you create emotions like fear, anger, and shame. Those emotions then influence your actions. You avoid opportunities. You withdraw from people. You sabotage progress. When you stop feeding those thoughts, the emotions lose their power. Your mood becomes lighter, your actions become bolder, and your results improve. The chain reaction begins with the simple choice not to feed what drains you. Over time, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone controlled by random thoughts. You see yourself as someone who chooses, someone who protects their energy, someone who directs their mind toward what matters. This identity becomes your strength, and when challenges come, and they always do, you face them with a steady mind. You no longer waste energy on draining thoughts. You invest it in action, solutions, and growth. The hidden truth is that every draining thought wants your attention. It survives only if you feed it, starve it, and it dies. The more you practice this, the freer you become. The freer you become, the more energy you have. And with that energy, you can create, you can improve, you can live with power. This is not theory. This is the psychology of real life. Your thoughts shape your energy, and your energy shapes your life. So make the decision today. Decide that you will no longer feed thoughts that weaken you. Decide that your energy is too valuable to waste. Decide that your mind is a space for strength, not for constant drain. Each decision adds up. Each refusal builds resilience. Each choice to starve a draining thought becomes another step toward a life of clarity, focus, and strength. You control what you feed, and what you feed will shape the quality of your days. Choose wisely, protect your energy, stop giving it away to thoughts that don't deserve it, and you will find yourself stronger, clearer, and more alive than ever before.
Chapter 3. Catch yourself when your mind repeats the same doubts. Doubt has a way of showing up in your life more than once. It doesn't just appear once and disappear. It circles back, comes at different times and in different forms, but it carries the same message. You're not ready. You're not capable. You don't deserve this. These doubts repeat because your mind has practiced them. The brain remembers patterns, and if you've doubted yourself in the past, it becomes easier for your mind to play those same lines again. That's why it is not enough to overcome doubt once. You have to catch it every time it repeats. When doubt repeats, it begins to feel familiar, and anything familiar starts to feel true. That's the danger. A thought you've entertained 10 times feels more believable than a thought you've only considered once. If you do not interrupt this cycle, you start to live as if doubt is a fact rather than a habit. And when you live from doubt, your actions shrink. You pull back when you should push forward. You stop when you should keep going. You talk yourself out of chances that could have changed your life. The key is awareness. You must develop the ability to catch yourself in the moment, not after the day is over, not after the opportunity has passed, but right when the thought is trying to take root again. Think about it. How many times have you noticed yourself repeating the same doubt before a presentation, before a decision, before a new step? So you've said it to yourself more than once, and every time it carried the same weight. That is the loop you need to interrupt. Catching yourself requires attention. You have to listen to your own mind. Most people are too distracted to even hear what they're saying to themselves. They live on autopilot, repeating doubts without realizing they are doing it. The first step is to slow down and listen. When your mind says you'll probably fail, notice it. When it says people will laugh at you, notice it. Don't let it slide by without recognition. That recognition is the moment of power, because you can't change what you don't notice. Once you catch the doubt, you have to challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought based on evidence, or is it just a repeat of my old fear? Most of the time it's just an old track playing again. Your mind is like a record that keeps spinning the same line. But just because the record plays doesn't mean you have to keep listening. You can stop it, you can question it, you can replace it. That is how you take back control. There's a psychological truth at work here. Repetition builds belief. If you say to yourself a doubtful line enough times, your brain will store it as something reliable. But here's the good news. Repetition works both ways. If you replace the doubt with a stronger truth and repeat that, your brain will eventually store that instead. This is how you reprogram the cycle. It starts by catching the doubt the moment it repeats, refusing to let it grow stronger, and deliberately putting something better in its place. Think about an athlete who is about to perform. Doubt always tries to sneak in. You'll mess up. You're not ready. If the athlete feeds it, their performance suffers. But if they catch it immediately and say, "I've trained for this, I know what to do," their body responds with confidence. The same principle applies to every area of life. The moment the doubt repeats, your response matters. Either you catch it and redirect, or you let it continue and weaken you. You also need to understand that doubts rarely disappear on their own. They thrive when you ignore them. Some people hope that if they just wait long enough, the doubts will go away. They don't. They recycle. They come back when you least want them to. That is why being passive doesn't work. You must make an active decision to notice and stop them. This is a skill, and like any skill, it grows stronger with practice. The more you catch yourself, the faster you'll recognize the pattern, and the easier it will become to stop it. Here's a practical way to start. Keep track of your doubts. Write them down when they show up. You'll be surprised how often they repeat the same theme. It may be about your ability, your worth, your future, or your past. Once you see the repetition, you'll realize your mind isn't that creative. It's recycling the same doubts over and over. Knowing this helps you stop taking them so seriously. Because if it's the same old line, why keep falling for it? Why keep letting it drain your confidence? When you catch yourself, you also create space. Space between the thought and your reaction. That space is crucial. Without it, you react automatically. You accept the doubt and your body follows with anxiety or hesitation. With space, you have a choice. You can decide, "This thought does not define me. I will not let it control me." That choice is what separates people who move forward from those who stay stuck. Remember this: doubt doesn't show up to inform you. It shows up to stop you. Its only purpose is to hold you back from taking risks and growing. If you treat it like truth, it wins. If you catch it, you win. That decision, made consistently, changes your entire future. Because every opportunity in your life will come with a dose of doubt. You can't avoid it, but you can control your response to it. Imagine what would happen if you stopped letting repeated doubts run your life. You would take more chances. You would speak up when it matters. You would try new things without fear holding you down. Your confidence would grow because your actions would prove to you that you're capable, and every success, no matter how small, would weaken the grip of doubt further. Over time, the old pattern would lose its power. Catching yourself also helps with emotional energy. Repeated doubts are exhausting. They drain you because they play in your mind like a background noise all day long. When you interrupt them, you silence that noise. You free up mental energy for problem solving, for creativity, for connection with others. You start to feel lighter, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you're no longer carrying the weight of endless doubts. It's important to be patient with yourself. The pattern of repeated doubt didn't start yesterday. It has been built over years of habit. Breaking it won't happen in a single day. But every time you catch yourself, you're breaking one more piece of the chain. Eventually, the cycle loses its hold, and you begin to live with more freedom. This progress is worth the effort, because nothing limits a person more than living under the constant influence of doubt. So decide right now that the next time doubt repeats itself in your mind, you will catch it. You will not let it slide by unnoticed. You will not give it the power of repetition. You will stand in that space, recognize it for what it is, and redirect your focus towards something useful. This one practice will change the quality of your days, the strength of your decisions, and the trajectory of your life. Every time doubt repeats, you have a chance to respond differently. If you miss it, you lose energy and confidence. If you catch it, you gain strength and clarity. And the more you choose strength, the more your life reflects that choice. That is the hidden truth. You are not stuck with doubt. You are only stuck if you don't notice it. Catch it and you break its cycle. Catch it and you set yourself free to grow, to act, and to live with the confidence that belongs to you. Chapter 4. Challenge the thoughts that tell you to stay small. Every person has heard that quiet voice inside telling them not to go too far, not to stand out, not to reach too high. It's the voice that says, stay where you are, don't make a scene, don't risk failure. That voice sounds protective, but in reality it keeps you small. It convinces you that playing it safe is the smart thing, when in truth it robs you of opportunities to grow. If you want to live a bigger life, you have to challenge those thoughts directly. You cannot negotiate with them, and you cannot wait for them to disappear on their own. You must face them and confront them every time they try to control you. Thoughts that tell you to stay small are deeply rooted. They often come from past experiences, from criticism you've heard, or from fears you've carried for years. They might echo words you were told as a child, or moments when you failed and never forgot the sting. Over time, your mind stores these moments as evidence and replays them whenever you try to stretch beyond your comfort zone. This is why it feels so convincing when the thought comes. It sounds like truth, but it's not truth. It's memory and fear disguised as truth. To grow, you have to call it out for what it is. When you challenge a thought, you are asking it to prove itself. If your mind tells you you're not ready for this, you pause and ask, why not? What proof do I have that I can't handle this? When you look for the proof, most of the time you find nothing real. You realize it's just an old assumption showing up again. That moment of questioning breaks the illusion. The thought loses its power when you refuse to accept it without evidence. Challenging small thoughts also requires courage. It means you must be willing to do what feels uncomfortable. You will hear the voice of fear, but instead of obeying it, you act against it. For example, if the thought says, don't speak up, you might embarrass yourself. The challenge is to speak anyway. Each time you do this, you weaken the grip of those thoughts. Each time you prove to yourself that you can step forward, your confidence grows. This is how you replace the habit of staying small with the habit of living larger. The danger of not challenging those thoughts is that they become a way of life. If you keep believing them, you start to shrink your choices. You stop taking chances. You stop trying new things. You limit yourself before the world even has a chance to test you. And over the years, your life becomes smaller than it should have been. Not because you weren't capable, but because you believed the lie that told you not to try. That is a tragedy you must avoid. The truth is that growth only happens when you push beyond where you are. And pushing beyond where you are always comes with discomfort. The thoughts that tell you to stay small are simply trying to keep you in comfort. But comfort is not where progress lives. Comfort is where dreams die slowly, because nothing changes there. To challenge those thoughts, you must remind yourself that discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is proof that you're stretching, proof that you're growing, proof that you're doing something that matters. Consider the people who achieve extraordinary results. They face the same thoughts as you do. They hear the same inner warnings, but they challenge them. They ask, why not me? Why not now? They refuse to let small thoughts dictate their lives. That refusal is what sets them apart. It's not that they never feel fear or doubt. It's that they don't let fear or doubt make their decisions for them. They decide, and then they act. You can begin by becoming more aware of the exact words your mind uses to keep you small. It might say, this is too big for you. It might say, others are better than you. It might say, if you try, you'll only fail. Once you identify these phrases, you can prepare your response. Instead of silently agreeing, you create a habit of countering them. When the thought says, this is too big for you, your response is, I'll grow into it. When the thought says, others are better, your response is, I can learn and improve. When the thought says, "You'll fail," your response is, "I'll try, and if I fail, I'll get better." This active resistance shifts your mindset from passive acceptance to active growth. There's another layer here. Staying small doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. When you hold back your potential, the people in your life receive less of what you could have given. Your family, your friends, your community, all of them benefit when you live bigger, when you pursue more, when you use your abilities fully. Playing small is not only a disservice to yourself, it's a disservice to the people who depend on you. This realization can be a powerful motivator to stop listening to those limiting thoughts. Challenging those thoughts also involves building an environment that supports your growth. If you spend your time around people who think small, their words will echo the same doubts your mind already produces. If you surround yourself with people who push forward, their example will make it easier to challenge your own doubt. You need to be intentional about who you spend your time with, because their voices often reinforce or weaken the thoughts you already fight. Think about how your body feels when you accept a thought that tells you to stay small. Your chest feels heavy, your breathing slows, your shoulders drop. Now think about how your body feels when you challenge it and take action anyway. You stand taller, you breathe deeper, your energy rises. This physical shift matters because it reinforces your new habit. Every time you act against a small thought, you not only change your mind, you change your body. Your entire being begins to learn that you can handle more than you once believed. One of the most powerful ways to challenge small thoughts is through action. The longer you sit and argue with a doubt in your head, the stronger it feels. But the moment you take action in spite of it, the doubt weakens. Action is the proof your mind cannot deny. If the thought says, "You can't handle speaking in public," but you get up and speak, you prove it wrong. That experience becomes evidence you can use the next time the thought tries to return. Over time, these experiences stack up, creating a new belief system that supports growth instead of limitation. You must also be honest with yourself about what's at stake. If you continue to obey thoughts that keep you small, your future will not look different from your present. Years from now, you will look back and realize that nothing changed. Not because you lacked opportunity, but because you lacked the courage to challenge your thinking. But if you start now, if you decide today that you will not accept those thoughts anymore, your future will look entirely different. You will look back and see growth, progress and change, all because you chose to fight for a bigger life. There will always be resistance. The thoughts will return. They may show up every time you attempt something new. That's normal. Don't expect them to disappear forever. Expect them and be ready to challenge them. Over time, their voice will fade, not because they never come back, but because you no longer give them authority. You'll hear them and immediately recognize them as false. That recognition will save you time, energy, and countless missed opportunities. The most liberating realization is this: you are not your thoughts. Just because your mind produces a limiting thought does not mean you must live by it. You are separate from it. You can step back, notice it, and choose a different response. That is real freedom. That is how you take back control of your future. So the next time your mind whispers, "Stay small," answer it with action. Answer it with courage. Answer it with a choice to grow instead of shrink. Each time you do, you rewrite the story of your life. Each time you do, you step into the larger version of yourself. And that larger version is the one who creates, contributes, and lives with strength. Your life will always expand or shrink to the size of your thoughts. If your thoughts are small, your life will be small. If your thoughts are challenged, stretched, and strengthened, your life will grow to match. The decision is yours every day. Don't let your life be limited by the false safety of staying small. Challenge those thoughts, live bigger, and watch how everything around you begins to change.
Chapter 5. Practice choosing thoughts that make you feel capable. The way you think about yourself is the foundation of how you act,
And nothing builds confidence faster than practicing the choice of thoughts that make you feel capable. Most people underestimate this truth. They think capability is built only through skills, experience, or success. But the deeper truth is this: before you can perform well, you must think well. Every choice you make, every step you take, begins first in the mind. If you train your thoughts to work for you rather than against you, you begin to unlock a level of strength you may have never known before. When you practice choosing thoughts that make you feel capable, you are not pretending. You are not lying to yourself. You are shaping your inner voice in a way that allows you to use the abilities you already have. Think about the moments when you doubted yourself. You had the skills, you had the chance, but because you allowed thoughts of weakness, you could not use what you knew. On the other hand, when you filled your mind with thoughts of capability, you performed better. The difference wasn't your talent, it was the thoughts you practiced before acting. Capability is not only about what you know, it's about how you approach what you know. A person who thinks I can handle this step will do better than someone with more knowledge who thinks I can't do this. That's the power of choosing thoughts deliberately. If you want to live with more confidence, you have to rehearse thoughts that support your strength instead of thoughts that weaken it. And this is not a one-time decision, it is a daily discipline. The challenge is that your mind does not automatically choose empowering thought. Left alone, it often drifts toward doubt, fear, or comparison. That's why practice matters. Just as your muscles grow stronger with repeated training, your mental capability grows stronger when you repeat the habit of selecting useful thought. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I can't," and replace it with, "I will try," you are building the muscle of capability. Each time you shift from, "This is too much," to "I'll handle this one step at a time," you are proving to yourself that you can choose the thoughts that fuel you. What does it feel like when you think in a way that makes you capable? Your body responds, you breathe easier, your posture improves. You notice yourself stepping into tasks with a sense of steadiness rather than hesitation. Your emotions follow too. You feel calmer, clearer, and more prepared. This is not magic, it is psychology. Thoughts come first, feelings come second, and actions follow them both. If you want the action of capability, begin with the thought of capability. Practicing this skill also requires patience. In the beginning, the old thoughts will return. They've been with you for years and they won't vanish overnight. You may hear, "You'll mess this up," or "You're not ready." But this is where the practice matters most. Instead of obeying those thoughts, you choose a new one. You tell yourself, "I've prepared and I'll learn as I go," or "I've succeeded before and I can again." By doing this consistently, you rewire the way your brain responds. Over time, the capable thoughts become more natural than the doubtful ones. One of the most effective ways to practice is through small moments. You don't need to wait for big challenges. Every day gives you dozens of chances. When you wake up, instead of saying, "This will be a hard day," you say, "I can handle what comes today." When you approach a task, instead of thinking, "I'll probably fail," you choose, "I'll give my best effort." When you interact with someone, instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," you choose, "I have value to offer." These small choices compound. They build a habit of capability thinking that prepares you for larger challenges later. You may wonder, does it really matter what I think if I still have to face reality? The answer is yes, because your thoughts influence how you face reality. Two people can face the same challenge, one thinking, "I'll figure this out," and the other thinking, "I'll never figure this." Which one is more likely to find solutions? Which one is more likely to keep trying when it gets tough? The same challenge, but two different outcomes, simply because of two different ways of thinking. There is another layer to this practice, the language you use with yourself. Pay close attention to the words in your mind. Do you often say, "I can't," "I won't," or "I'm not"? These words shape your identity. To feel capable, you must replace them with language that empowers you. Say, "I can," "I will," and "I am learning." These words matter because your mind listens to them. Over time, they create a new standard for how you see yourself. This doesn't mean you ignore your weaknesses. Being capable doesn't mean being perfect. It means believing you can grow, adapt, and improve. It means trusting that no matter what comes, you have what it takes to face it or to learn from it. When you think this way, challenges don't paralyze you, they stretch you. You no longer see mistakes as proof of failure. You see them as proof that you're trying, and you know you can use them to get better. That mindset alone will put you far ahead of people who quit because their thoughts tell them they can't. Think about your past success. Each one of them began with a moment when you chose to believe in your ability. Even if you felt nervous, even if you doubted yourself, there was a thought that said, "I'll try," or "I can do this." That thought gave you the push to take action, and that action created a result that reinforced your capability. If you had chosen a different thought, the story would have been different. This is why practicing capable thinking is so powerful. It creates a cycle of confidence and growth. Imagine if every day you gave yourself the gift of choosing at least 10 capable thoughts. 10 times when you deliberately said, "I can handle this," or "I know I'm capable." By the end of the week, you'd have chosen 70 strong thoughts. By the end of the month, 100. That repetition builds momentum. It builds a new default setting in your brain. You no longer need to push yourself to believe. You start to naturally think in a way that supports your strength. Some people wait for proof before they allow capable thought. They say, "I'll believe I can after I succeed." But that's backward. Success comes after the thought, not before. You must practice capable thinking first, even if you don't fully feel it yet. Then the actions you take will provide the proof. Waiting for evidence before you think strong thoughts will keep you trapped. Creating the thought first is how you build the evidence. Notice too how your relationships change when you practice capable thoughts. When you believe in yourself, you show up differently. You contribute more. You interact with confidence instead of insecurity. People respond to you with more trust and respect. They sense your stability. This creates new opportunities for connection, for growth, for success. All of it flowing from the simple but powerful decision to choose thoughts that make you feel capable. Your life is full of moments that test you. Some are small, some are large, but in all of them your thinking decides the outcome. If you practice weak thoughts, you'll feel weak. If you practice strong thoughts, you'll feel strong. The choice is always there, and every time you choose capability, you strengthen it. Every time you refuse doubt, you weaken it. Over time, you build a mind that supports your highest potential rather than sabotages it. So make this your commitment. Every day, practice. Don't wait for a special occasion. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start today. Replace one weak thought with one capable thought. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day. Before long, you will notice a shift. You'll feel more resilient, more confident, more ready, and when challenges come, you'll face them with a steady mind, knowing you've built the habit of choosing capability. This is the hidden truth of personal growth. The real power lies not in waiting for confidence, but in choosing it through the thoughts you allow. You do not have to let doubt decide who you are. You can decide for yourself. Every capable thought is a seed of strength, and the more you plant, the stronger your future becomes. Your mind is your greatest tool. Use it to build, not to break. Use it to make yourself capable, and you'll discover that you can achieve far more than you once believed possible.
Chapter 6. Refuse to accept any thought that weakens you. There comes a point when you must draw the line with your own mind. Not every thought deserves to live inside your head. Some thoughts weaken you the second you accept them. They strip away your confidence. They lower your energy. They convince you that you are less than you are. The hidden truth is that you cannot stop these thoughts from showing up, but you can refuse to accept them. That refusal is the difference between living as a victim of your own thinking or living as the one in charge. Weakening thoughts are clever. They don't always shout. Often they slip in quietly. They tell you that you are too late, that you don't have what it takes, that others are ahead of you. If you let them stay, they grow roots.
They influence your mood, your choices, and your results. But if you refuse them the moment they appear, they die before they ever have the chance to control you. That choice is yours. The moment you accept or reject a thought, you decide how much power it will have. Think about how your body reacts when you accept a weakening thought. Your shoulders drop, your breathing becomes shallow, your energy feels low, you act less boldly. You hesitate instead of moving. But when you reject that same thought, everything changes. You stand taller, your breathing steadies, and you regain strength. The thought itself didn't change, your response did. That is how much influence your decision has. You don't need to fight every weak thought, you just need to refuse to accept it. It's easy to underestimate how damaging these thoughts can be. Some people say, it's just a thought, but a thought is never just a thought. Once you accept it, it turns into a belief. A belief becomes an emotion, and that emotion turns into an action. Before long, your entire life is being directed by something that started as a single weakening idea. That's why you must be ruthless with your refusal. Don't negotiate with thoughts that weaken you. Don't justify them. Don't replay them. Cut them off before they can take hold. The refusal begins with awareness. You need to know what weakening thoughts sound like in your own mind. They are not the same for everyone. For one person, it may be, you're not smart enough. For another, you'll never succeed. For someone else, nobody cares what you do. Once you identify the kinds of thoughts that weaken you, you can prepare for them. The next time one shows up, you recognize it quickly. Instead of getting caught off guard, you meet it with strength. You say, no, this thought doesn't belong here. That act of refusal builds inner discipline. Refusing weak thoughts is not about pretending. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about protecting yourself from lies that drain you. Reality is tough enough. You don't need false limitations added on top. For example, maybe you failed in the past. That's reality. But the weakening thought says, because you failed once, you will always fail. That is not reality. That is a lie. If you accept it, you carry unnecessary weight. If you refuse it, you free yourself to try again with clarity. The practice of refusing weak thoughts is much like guarding the entrance to your home. You don't allow strangers who want to harm you to walk right in. You check who's at the door. You decide whether they stay or leave. Your mind works the same way. You are the guard at the entrance. If you let every thought walk in freely, don't be surprised when chaos takes over. But if you stand guard and refuse what doesn't serve you, your inner space remains strong, clear, and secure. This discipline grows stronger with repetition. At first, you may catch yourself late. You may realize hours later that you've been entertaining a weakening thought all day. That's fine. Notice it, stop it, and move on. Next time you'll catch it soon. Eventually you'll recognize it the moment it enters. That's when you know you've built true mental strength. You no longer live at the mercy of every thought. You live with the power to decide. What happens when you live this way? Your confidence rises. You start to trust yourself more. You stop doubting every move. You begin to act with more consistency, because your decisions are no longer poisoned by weak thinking. People around you notice it too. They see the difference in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you respond to challenges. They feel your presence, because it is no longer clouded by thoughts that diminish you. It's important to understand that refusing weak thoughts doesn't mean you will never feel fear or doubt. Those emotions are part of being human. The difference is that you don't let them dictate your action. You acknowledge them without obeying them. You hear the weak thought, but you don't accept it as your truth. You know the difference between a passing mental noise and your actual identity. That separation gives you freedom. Some people wait for motivation before they reject weak thoughts. They hope that someday they will feel strong enough to naturally resist them. But the truth is, you must refuse them first, then the motivation comes. Strength is not what you feel before you act, it's what you gain after you act. The act of refusing builds the strength you are waiting for. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting your whole life. You also need to replace the thought you reject. Empty space in the mind doesn't stay empty for long. Once you refuse a thought, fill that space with something that supports you. If you reject, "I'm not capable," replace it with, "I am learning and improving." If you reject, "I don't deserve success," replace it with, "I am working to earn success." If you reject, "I will fail," replace it with, "I will give my best effort." The refusal removes the poison, but the replacement plants the seed for growth. Over time, this habit reshapes your identity. You start to see yourself not as someone controlled by doubt, but as someone who chooses strength. That identity matters, because your actions will always follow the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as weak, you will act small. If you see yourself as strong, you will act bold. Refusing weak thoughts is how you take control of that identity and decide who you become. Ask yourself this question: how much of your life has been held back because you accepted thoughts that weakened you? How many chances did you pass on because you let those thoughts decide for you? How many relationships, opportunities, or goals never had a chance because you believed the voice that said you couldn't? If the answer is too many, then now is the time to stop. The past cannot be changed, but today you can begin to refuse what weakens you and build a future that reflects your strength. This is the path of resilience. Every person who has accomplished something meaningful has faced weak thoughts. The difference is that they refused to accept them. They built the habit of challenging those voices, of saying no, of choosing strength instead. That is available to you too. It is not reserved for a few. It is a decision anyone can make. So stand guard at the door of your mind. Refuse entry to anything that tells you you're less. Anything that convinces you to give up. Anything that shrinks your potential. Those thoughts are not welcome. They are not who you are, and every time you refuse them, you grow stronger. Every time you refuse them, you reclaim more of your life. Every time you refuse them, you step closer to becoming the person you were meant to be. Your mind will always produce a mix of thoughts. Some will strengthen you, some will weaken you. You cannot control which ones appear, but you can always control which ones stay. That control is your responsibility. It is also your power. Refuse the thoughts that weaken you, and you will live with more confidence, more energy, and more freedom than you ever imagined.
Chapter 7. Strengthen your mind by directing thoughts with intention. Your mind is always at work, whether you guide it or not. It produces thought after thought, some helpful, some distracting, some destructive. If you let it run without direction, it will wander into places that weaken you. But if you choose to guide it with intention, you build strength that changes everything. Directing your thoughts is not about control in the sense of force. It's about deciding where to place your focus and what to allow space inside your mind. A strong mind is not the result of random thinking. It is the product of intentional thinking practiced over time. Think about how much of life slips by because thoughts are left unmanaged. You start the day thinking about what could go wrong, and your entire morning bends under that weight. You replay mistakes from the past, and suddenly your confidence is drained. You imagine the worst possible outcomes, and your energy sinks before you've even taken action. That's what happens when you let thoughts wander without direction. They pull your life in a direction you never wanted. To strengthen your mind, you must take the wheel. You must direct your thoughts toward clarity, progress, and solutions. Intentional thinking begins with deciding what matters most. If you don't know where you want your thoughts to go,
they'll go anywhere. A person who hasn't chosen their priorities will spend hours feeding thoughts that add nothing to their life. But when you are clear about what matters, your goals, your values, your responsibilities, you can direct your mind to focus on them. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges. It means guiding your energy toward what builds you rather than what breaks you. Notice how your mind reacts when you set an intention. Say to yourself, "Today I will focus on growth," and see how your thoughts start aligning. When an obstacle shows up, instead of thinking, "This is impossible," your mind shifts to, "What can I learn here?" That shift is the result of intention. Without it, the default thought may have been defeat. With it, the thought becomes opportunity. That's the difference intention makes. It creates a lens through which your mind interprets every situation. Directing your thoughts with intention also protects you from mental clutter. Every day, countless distractions fight for your attention. News, opinions, social media, worries about things outside your control, they all compete for space in your mind. If you do not set an intention, your thoughts get scattered. You lose focus, you lose time, and you weaken your ability to act decisively. But when you decide in advance where your focus belongs, you cut through the noise. You say no to distractions because you already said yes to what matters most. Strengthening your mind through intention is like training a muscle. At first it feels awkward. Your thoughts will resist. They will try to pull you back into old patterns of worry, doubt, or negativity. But each time you redirect them, you get stronger. Each time you say, "No, I will focus on what helps me," you build endurance. Eventually, intentional thinking becomes more natural than drifting. Your mind learns the path you have chosen, and it begins to follow it more easily. One powerful way to practice is to start and end your day with clear mental direction. In the morning, ask yourself, "What kind of thoughts do I want to guide me today?" Choose thoughts of strength, focus, and capability. Throughout the day, when challenges appear, check if your thoughts are still aligned with your intention. If not, redirect them. At night, reflect on whether your thoughts supported your goals or weakened them. This practice builds awareness and discipline. It keeps you from falling into the trap of letting the day decide for you. Another aspect of directing thoughts is learning to place attention where it can make a difference. Many people waste energy thinking about what they cannot change. They worry about the past, about what others think, about circumstances beyond their control. These thoughts drain them. When you strengthen your mind, you refuse to give energy to the unchangeable. Instead, you direct your thoughts toward action. You ask, "What can I do right now? What step can I take?" That focus not only keeps you productive, but also keeps you emotionally steady. Directing your thoughts also builds resilience. Life will test you. Challenges, setbacks, and failures are part of the human experience. Without intentional thinking, these moments can break you. But when you guide your thoughts deliberately, you frame challenges in a way that makes you stronger. Instead of saying, "Why me?" you say, "How can I grow from?" Instead of "This setback defines me," you say, "This is one moment, it does not decide my life." That inner direction keeps you from sinking when life gets heavy. Consider how relationships change when you direct your thoughts intentionally. If you let your mind dwell on irritation, you become impatient and cold with others. But if you choose thoughts of understanding and patience, your interactions change. You listen better, you speak more kindly, you build trust. The same applies to work. If you let your mind drift into boredom or frustration, your performance suffers. But if you direct your thoughts toward excellence and contribution, your effort rises. Your results follow your thinking, and so do the opportunities that come your way. It's important to realize that intention does not erase negative thoughts completely. They will still appear. The difference is that you don't allow them to stay long. You see them, you acknowledge them, and then you redirect. This habit keeps them from controlling you. Over time, you become less reactive and more deliberate. You stop being pushed around by every passing thought and start steering your mind with purpose. That steadiness is what creates a strong inner foundation. Directing your thoughts is also an act of self-respect. It is saying to yourself, my mind is valuable. My energy is important. I will not waste them on thoughts that do nothing for me. This self-respect changes how you live. You stop tolerating mental habits that keep you small. You begin demanding more from yourself. Not in a harsh way, but in a way that honors your potential. You recognize that if you want a strong life, you need a strong mind, and a strong mind is built by intentional direction. One of the most practical techniques is to use questions that guide your thinking. When you face a problem, instead of asking, why is this so hard, ask, what can I do to improve this? When you feel doubt, instead of asking, what if I fail, ask, what step can I take to prepare? These questions redirect your mind from weakness to strength. They shift your focus from limitation to possibility. The more you practice asking better questions, the more capable your thinking becomes. Your future depends on whether you take this discipline serious. Every great achievement begins with a directed mind. Nobody stumbles into growth or success by letting their thoughts wander aimlessly. They set an intention, they align their thinking with it, and they act in harmony with those thoughts. You can do the same. You don't need extraordinary talent. You need the daily habit of guiding your mind with purpose. Ask yourself now, where have your thoughts been leading you? Have they been pulling you forward or holding you back? Have they been building your confidence or draining it? Be honest, then make the decision to take responsibility for your thinking. It may not be easy at first, but it will always be worth it. Every time you redirect your mind, you are taking back control of your life. Every time you choose an intentional thought, you are laying a brick in the foundation of your future. In the end, your mind will either be your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. The difference lies in whether you direct it or let it drift. Strength comes when you choose intention. It comes when you decide that no thought enters your mind without your permission. It comes when you guide your focus toward what matters and away from what weakens you. That is the discipline. That is the practice, and that is how you build a life of clarity, strength, and resilience.
Chapter 8. Pay attention to how thoughts decide your actions. Every action you take begins with a thought. Before you speak, before you move, before you make a decision, your mind has already planted the seed that directs your behavior. This is why paying attention to your thoughts is not optional. If you ignore them, you'll live on autopilot, repeating the same actions that keep you stuck. But if you notice them clearly, you'll begin to understand why you do what you do, and more importantly, you'll gain the power to change it. Think about the last time you procrastinated on something important. It wasn't the task itself that stopped you, it was the thought you accepted about it. Maybe it was, this is too hard, or I'll do it later. That thought shaped your action, and the action shaped your result. Now think about a time when you followed through and got something done. What was different? The thought might have been, I'll start now, or this matters. Again, the thought dictated the action. This pattern happens hundreds of times every day, whether you realize it or not. When you start paying attention, you begin to see the link everywhere. A person who constantly thinks, I don't have time, acts as if time is against them. They rush, they stress, they cut corners. But a person who thinks, I will make time for what matters, acts calmly, prioritizes, and achieves more with less anxiety. The same circumstances, but completely different results because of different thoughts. The danger is that many people never examine this process. They assume their actions are random or controlled by circumstances. They don't see that their own thoughts are the starting point, so they repeat the same mistakes, not because they lack intelligence, but because they are blind to the cause. They don't pause long enough to trace their action back to the thought that created it.
This lack of awareness keeps them stuck. Paying attention means slowing down the process. Before you act, notice what thought is driving you. If you find yourself avoiding a challenge, ask, what am I telling myself right now? Maybe the thought is, I'm not ready. If you notice it, you can challenge it and act differently. Without noticing, you simply obey it. The same applies to positive action. If you find yourself being courageous, ask, what was I thinking that gave me this courage? Identifying it allows you to repeat it intentionally next time. This practice not only improves your choices, but also builds self-respect. When you realize you are not simply reacting to life, but directing it through your thoughts, you begin to trust yourself more. You no longer feel like a passenger being carried by circumstances. You feel like the driver, steering with awareness. That sense of control strengthens your confidence and motivates you to keep paying attention. It's also important to see how thoughts influence actions over time. A single action might not seem like much, but repeated actions form habits, and those habits shape your character. For example, a person who thinks daily, I'll never be healthy, takes actions that reinforce poor health, skipping exercise, eating carelessly, avoiding discipline. Over years, this thought-action loop creates a lifestyle of weakness. On the other hand, a person who thinks, I can improve my health one step at a time, makes different choices, taking a walk, preparing better meals, resting properly. Over time, those actions build strength. The difference between the two lives began with thoughts repeated and acted on. Another example, consider how people handle conflict. If your thought is, this person is against me, your action might be to argue, to withdraw, or to build resentment. But if your thought is, this person has a different perspective, your action shifts. You listen, you communicate, you look for common ground. The thought determines whether the situation escalates or resolves. Paying attention to that inner dialogue is the key to healthier relationships. Some people believe they can hide their thoughts, but actions reveal them sooner or later. If you constantly think you are not good enough, it shows in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you pursue goals. If you think you have value, that shows too. People around you notice, even if you never speak the thought out loud. This is why personal growth always begins in the mind. Change the thought and the action changes. Change the action, and your life follows. The question then is how to pay attention in a practical way. One method is journaling. At the end of each day, write down actions you took and trace them back to the thoughts behind them. You'll begin to notice patterns. You might discover that every time you avoided a task, the thought was some form of I can't. You might see that every time you made progress, the thought was I'll try. This awareness is powerful because it gives you the blueprint for changing your behavior. Another method is mindfulness. Throughout the day, pause for a few seconds before making a decision. Ask yourself, what thought is guiding me right now? It may feel unnatural at first, but with practice, it becomes automatic. The more you practice, the faster you'll catch unhelpful thoughts before they turn into unhelpful action. You'll also reinforce positive thoughts by noticing them, which makes it easier to repeat them. Strengthening this habit transforms not only your personal life, but also your professional life. At work, the difference between growth and stagnation often comes down to thought-driven action. Someone who constantly thinks I'm not leadership material avoids opportunities to lead. Someone who thinks I can learn to lead steps into challenges and grows. Both may start at the same level, but their paths diverge because of thoughts that led to different action. The one who paid attention to their inner voice had the chance to redirect it, and in doing so reshaped their career. Notice also how thoughts affect your persistence. When the going gets hard, the thought, this is pointless, makes you quit. The thought, this is difficult, but worth it, makes you continue. Both are possible thoughts in the same situation. The one you notice and choose to accept will decide your action, and that action will decide whether you succeed or stop short. This is why the practice of paying attention must become daily. It is not a luxury. It is survival for anyone who wants to build a meaningful life. It's worth pointing out that ignoring this principle comes at a high cost. People who don't pay attention often feel trapped in cycles they don't understand. They say things like, "I don't know why I keep doing this," or "I can't break this habit." The reason is clear. They never stop to notice the thought behind the action. Without noticing, there is no chance of change. But once you notice, you are no longer powerless. You see the root cause, and with that awareness comes the freedom to act differently. This practice also builds emotional intelligence. By noticing your thoughts before you act, you begin to understand yourself more deeply. You see what triggers your anger, your fear, your hesitation. You can prepare for those triggers and respond more wisely. This understanding also extends to others. When you realize that everyone's actions come from thoughts, you develop more patience and empathy. You stop taking things personally and start seeing that people like you are guided by the thoughts they accept. The strength of your future depends heavily on this discipline. Every goal you set will require actions, and every action will be determined by thoughts. If you ignore the thought level, you will struggle to change the action level. But if you master the thought level, the actions will follow naturally. Success then becomes not a matter of forcing yourself, but of aligning your thinking with the life you want. Your responsibility is to stay awake to this connection. Pay attention when your mind whispers excuses. Pay attention when it offers courage. Pay attention when it tries to hold you back. And pay attention when it pushes you forward. These are not random. They are the drivers of your life. If you ignore them, they will still shape your path, but without your permission. If you notice them, you can step in, choose deliberately, and direct your future. So make it a habit, starting now. Watch your thoughts with care. Ask yourself before acting, is this thought leading me where I want to go? If the answer is no, pause and redirect. If the answer is yes, follow through bold. This simple discipline will change the quality of your decisions, the strength of your actions, and the trajectory of your life. It will give you the clarity to stop repeating patterns that don't serve you, and start building habits that move you closer to the life you want. Your thoughts are not invisible. They leave evidence in your actions, and your actions are not small. They build the reality you live in every day. Pay attention to the source, and you take control of the outcome. Ignore the source, and you leave your life to chance. The choice is yours, and it starts with one step, paying attention to how your thoughts decide your action.
Chapter 9. Build new habits by starting with better thinking. Every habit you have today, whether it helps you or hurts you, was built first in your mind. Before it became something you did without thinking, it started as a thought you repeated until it turned into action. That's why if you want to create new habits, you cannot begin only with what you do. You must begin with what you think. Your thoughts are the foundation of every pattern you form. Strong thoughts build strong habits. Weak thoughts build weak ones. If you want lasting change, you have to start at the source. Think about how habits begin. At first, you make a decision. You tell yourself, "I'll try this." That single thought becomes an action. If you repeat the thought, the action becomes more frequent. Soon you don't even need to think about it. It becomes automatic. This works both ways. A thought like, "I'll relax for a few minutes," repeated often, becomes hours wasted in distraction. A thought like, "I'll exercise for 10 minutes," repeated daily, becomes a lifestyle of fitness. The action is visible, but the thought is the hidden trigger. The problem for many people is that they try to change habits without changing their thoughts. They force themselves to act differently while still entertaining the same mental patterns. They think, "I hate this, I can't keep this up," and then wonder why they quit. The truth is simple. If the thought is wrong, the habit won't last.
But if you start with a better thought, one that encourages, one that empowers, the action becomes easier to repeat. Over time, that action solidifies into a habit that sticks. Pay attention to the language in your head. If you want to wake up early, but your thought is, "I'm not a morning person," that thought will sabotage every effort. The better thought is, "I'm training myself to start the day strong." If you want to eat healthier but your thought is, "I always fail at diets," you've already lost. The better thought is, "I can make one better choice today." The way you think about a habit determines whether you keep. Small improvements in thought create massive improvements in habit. People often underestimate this. They believe they need to make huge changes all at once. But a single new thought practiced consistently can transform a life. For example, replacing "I can't do this" with "I can try for 5 minutes" builds persistence. Replacing "it's not worth it" with "every step counts" builds consistency. Over time, these new ways of thinking hardwire better behavior into your daily routine. It's also important to understand that habits don't exist in isolation. They connect to identity. What you think about yourself shapes what you do every day. If you think, "I'm lazy," you'll build habits that prove it. If you think, "I'm disciplined," you'll build habits that support that. The identity you claim in your mind is the foundation of the routines you practice. That's why starting with better thinking matters so much. A thought like, "I am capable of discipline," may seem small, but it shifts your identity, and your habits will eventually align with that identity. Building habits through better thinking also protects you from relapse. Everyone struggles at times. You might miss a day. You might slip back into an old pattern. If your thought is, "I failed, so it's over," you'll quit. But if your thought is, "This is just one day, I can continue tomorrow," you keep going. That one thought decides whether the habit survives or dies. Failure does not destroy habits. Giving up does. And giving up almost always begins with the wrong thought. Practical application is simple. Choose one habit you want to build. Then write down the thoughts that have been holding you back. Replace them with new ones that support your goal. Repeat those thoughts daily, especially before you act. For instance, if you want to write every day, stop thinking, "I have nothing to say." Start thinking, "Writing a little each day makes me better." Each time you practice the new thought, the habit gets stronger. Another key is to visualize yourself performing the habit with confidence. When you picture yourself succeeding, your mind rehearses the thought, "I can do this." That rehearsal makes it easier when the moment arrives. You're no longer surprised by the action. You've already thought it through, and your body follows your mental rehearsal. Athletes use this principle constantly, and so can you. Better thoughts prepare you for better habits. Don't underestimate the role of repetition. One strong thought won't change your life. A strong thought repeated daily will. The brain works on reinforcement. Every time you think in a new way, you carve a small path. The more you walk it, the stronger it becomes. Eventually, it replaces the old path. That's why you must keep repeating better thoughts until they become automatic. At that point, your habits follow effortlessly. Consider the emotional impact too. Better thinking doesn't just make habits possible, it makes them enjoyable. If your thought about exercise is, "I hate this," you'll drag yourself through it and eventually stop. If your thought is, "This makes me stronger," you'll begin to enjoy the process. Emotions follow thoughts. When your thoughts frame habits positively, your feelings align, and the habit becomes something you look forward to, rather than something you dread. This is not about blind optimism, it's about realistic, empowering thinking. A better thought is not pretending everything is easy, it's reminding yourself of truth that builds you. I am capable of learning. One small step matters. I can improve with practice. These are not fantasies, they are choices of perspective that fuel progress. When repeated, they become the mental soil in which lasting habits grow. Habits decide the direction of your life. Whether you grow or stagnate depends on what you repeat daily, and what you repeat daily depends on the thoughts you allow. You can't escape this connection. If you want to change the quality of your future, start with the quality of your thinking today. Better thoughts build better routines, and better routines build a better life. Think about how different your life could look a year from now if you practiced this. If each day you replaced just a handful of weak thoughts with stronger ones, what would happen? You'd begin to take more consistent action. You'd start building habits that match the person you want to become. You'd stop sabotaging yourself before you even tried. Over time, those small mental choices would add up to a massive transformation. This is the hidden truth. People fail at habits, not because they lack willpower, but because they never built the right thoughts to support them. They try to act against the grain of their own thinking. It's like rowing against a current. The moment they get tired, they slip back. But when you align your thoughts with your actions, the current carries you forward. You no longer fight yourself, you support yourself. That's when habits stick. So start today. Pick one area where you want to change. Instead of only focusing on what you will do, focus first on what you will think. Write the thought, repeat it, believe it enough to act on it, then act. Keep repeating until the action feels natural. In time you won't have to force the habit, it will be part of who you are. That is the power of starting with better thinking. Your thoughts are the architects of your habits, and your habits are the architects of your future. If you want a stronger future, you must begin by building stronger thoughts today. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you choose thoughts that make growth possible, and refuse thoughts that hold you back. That practice, repeated daily, will build habits that carry you forward for the rest of your life.
Chapter 10. Master your future by mastering the thoughts today. The direction of your future is not something that appears suddenly one day. It is being built in the present moment by the thoughts you choose to carry. Every dream, every setback, every achievement begins in the mind. If your thoughts are scattered, fearful, or negative, your future will reflect that. If your thoughts are disciplined, clear, and empowering, your future will reflect that too. The difference between where you are now and where you will be years from now comes down to how you train your thinking today. Master your thoughts now, and you master your future before it arrives. Your future is not controlled by luck, chance, or circumstance as much as people think. It is controlled by repeated decisions that are shaped by the way you think every day. Look back on your life. The choices that brought you here did not appear in isolation. They were guided by the thoughts you accepted. The times you believed you could, you acted boldly. The times you doubted, you held back. The times you focused, you made progress. The times you entertained distraction, you lost momentum. This same principle will decide what happens next in your life. To master your thoughts today means to become intentional about what you allow and what you reject. You cannot let every thought occupy your mind because not every thought deserves space. Some thoughts build you, others break you. If you don't filter them, you'll spend your life reacting instead of creating. But if you choose deliberately, you shape a mental environment that produces growth. That environment becomes the soil out of which your future grows. Think about a person who constantly feeds themselves with doubt. Their thoughts sound like, "I'm not ready, I'll never succeed, I don't deserve it." With thoughts like these, how can they act with courage? How can they seize opportunity? They can't. Their future is limited before it even begins. Now think about a person who feeds themselves with stronger thoughts. They remind themselves, "I am capable, I can grow, I can figure this out." These thoughts push them to act differently. Their future expands because their present thinking opens doors instead of closing them. This is why mastering your future begins with mastering today.
Every day counts. Every day you are rehearsing thoughts that will become the foundation of tomorrow. If today you choose laziness in your thinking, tomorrow you'll find it harder to act. If today you choose strength in your thinking, tomorrow you'll find it easier to persist. People often want to skip to the results of the future without recognizing that the future is the harvest of what they plant in their thoughts now. To master your thoughts, you need awareness and discipline. Awareness means paying attention to what's really happening in your mind. It means noticing the excuses, the doubts, and the fears as soon as they arise. Discipline means refusing to accept the ones that weaken you and replacing them with ones that serve you. This is not about wishful thinking. It's about training your inner dialogue to support your growth instead of sabotage it. When you do this day after day, the compounding effect shapes your destiny. Your future is not only about goals, it's about the kind of person you are becoming. That person is created through the thoughts you practice. If you master thoughts of resilience, your future will show resilience. If you master thoughts of gratitude, your future will be full of appreciation and abundance. If you master thoughts of discipline, your future will be stable and consistent. You cannot separate the person you will be from the thoughts you choose now. Consider the simple example of financial habits. A person who thinks, "I can never save money," acts in ways that confirm it. They spend recklessly, avoid planning, and live with stress. Their future becomes one of scarcity. A person who thinks, "I can build wealth step by step," acts differently. They save a little, invest wisely, make careful choices. Over time, their future becomes one of security and freedom. The difference is not intelligence or opportunity. It is thought. The thought created the action, and the action created the future. The same applies to health, relationships, and personal growth. Thoughts drive the choices, and choices build the life. If you want a different future, you must begin with different thoughts. You cannot wait until tomorrow to think stronger thoughts. You cannot wait until you feel ready. The time to master your thinking is now, in the present moment, because the present moment is the only time you can shape, and the way you shape it becomes the way your future unfolds. One mistake people make is assuming that one day they will wake up with a new mindset by accident. It doesn't work that way. Mindset is built, not delivered. It is built by the thoughts you practice deliberately. If you want to be confident in the future, you must practice confident thinking today. If you want to be disciplined later, you must practice disciplined thinking now. If you want to live with peace years from now, you must practice peaceful thinking in the present. Waiting will only keep you stuck. Choosing today is the path to freedom. When you commit to mastering your thoughts, you also take responsibility for your future. You stop blaming circumstances, people, or luck. You realize that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can always control how you think about it. That control gives you power. Power to respond instead of react. Power to persist instead of quit. Power to adapt instead of collapse. That power is what shapes your future more than anything else. Pay attention to how much stronger you feel when you direct your thoughts with purpose. In moments of stress, a thought like, "I can't handle this," drains you instantly. But a thought like, "I'll take this one step at a time," steadies you. The situation may be the same, but the future that grows out of it is not. The first thought leads to quitting. The second leads to growth. This is why mastering your thoughts today matters. It's not just about surviving the moment. It's about deciding the direction of your life. Mastering your thoughts is not about perfection. You will still have weak moments. Doubt will still visit. Fear will still whisper. But mastery doesn't mean the absence of these voices. It means refusing to obey them. It means noticing them, rejecting them, and replacing them with stronger truths. That practice, repeated daily, creates resilience that carries you through anything. And resilience is what ensures your future is built on strength rather than weakness. Ask yourself right now, what thoughts have you been feeding lately? Are they the kind of thoughts that will create the future you want? Or are they the kind of thoughts that will keep you stuck? Be honest, because your answer will reveal what direction your life is heading. If the thoughts are small, the future will be small. If the thoughts are strong, the future will be strong. You are not at the mercy of this process. You can decide to change it today. To master your future, start with small victories in your thinking. Each time you replace a thought of defeat with a thought of perseverance, you win. Each time you replace a thought of fear with a thought of courage, you win. Each time you replace a thought of limitation with a thought of possibility, you win. These small victories accumulate. Over time, they transform who you are and what you are capable of. That is the compounding power of thought mastery. Your future is not something to fear, it is something to shape. You don't need to predict every detail of what's ahead. You just need to master the part that belongs to you, the thoughts you hold in the present. Master those and you'll be prepared for whatever comes. You'll face challenges with strength, embrace opportunities with confidence, and live with a sense of purpose. So make the decision now. Refuse to give your future away to weak thinking. Refuse to live as a prisoner of old patterns. Refuse to wait for circumstances to change before you decide to think differently. Begin today. Master the thoughts you allow, and you'll master the actions that follow. Master the actions, and you'll master the results. Master the results, and you'll master your future. It all begins here, in the present moment, with what you choose to think.